Rajju sarpavadatmanam jivo jnatva bhayam vahe naham jiva paratmeti jnatasche nirbhayo bhavet. Rajju sarpavadatmanam jivo jnatva bhayam vahet naham jiva paratmeti jnatasche nirbhayo bhavet. Knowing the self to be the individual, just like the rope for the snake, one is overcome with fear, bhayam vahet. If known not as the individual, but as the Supreme Self, naham jiva paratmeti, not the jiva, not this individual ego, but as the paratmeti, jnata, jnatam, jnata che nirbhayo bhavet. Instantly, one becomes free from bhavet, fear. It makes it so simple. You're mistaking yourself to be the individual. You think yourself to be having a personality of your own, an individuality of your own. You think you are someone big, you think something about yourself. Therefore, all these problems, man. It's very simple for them. You think yourself to be other than the totality. The moment you think yourself to be the individual, the moment you think yourself to be the jiva, comes all the problems. And one of the emotions that engulfs humanity, which is battling to deal with, is bhaya, bhavet, bhayam, the fear. So all of this arises because of a mistaken identity. You don't know who you are. You think yourself to be what you think yourself to be something other than what the reality should be. And from there comes all the problems, he says. So from an absolute standpoint, you can say it is the ignorance of your own self. Not knowing of yourself creates this separation, creates this duality, creates this otherness, which causes fear from an absolute standpoint. But even from a relative standpoint, what is it that causes fear in us? Every one of us experiences this emotion, fear. A fear arises out of, can we say fear is an insecure feeling? We can say that. So fear is a feeling of insecurity. Now, why does that feeling of insecurity come? There are three reasons why fear, the emotion fear, one experiences. One, the first reason is wherever there is an otherness, whenever there is a lack of oneness, there is an insecure feeling. There's a fear of losing. There's a fear. Wherever there is otherness, there is fear. The moment where there is oneness, there is no fear. One reason. Second reason is ignorance causes fear. Like, for example, you're trying to do some gardening work, and there's a lot of stones and so many things are lying around. You don't want to clean up the garden. So you put on some gloves and you say, let me get onto the field work. You want to lift that stone. And there's a possibility that there could be something hiding. It could be a scorpion. It could be something there. So when you're lifting that stone, there is a bhaya. There's a fear. I hope there's nothing there. I hope there's nothing going to crawl and sting me, or you don't know what is there. There is a bhaya, fear, out of ignorance. You are entering into an area of darkness. You don't know what is there ahead of you. There is fear, bhaya, ignorance. You don't know what is there. The third reason is fear arises out of desire. When your desires are fulfilled, when your desires are met, you have a fear of losing. But it's not necessary that every time you get what you have got, you have to experience this emotion of fear. It's not a natural emotion. So there are strings attached to this third point of, you're wondering, what is this fellow? He's come on to the class. Moment the class started, he's already started, got into the concept, started the verse, pata, 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 he's rattling off. There is no warm-up, there is no preparation, there's nothing. It's like a test match, You are expected to do warm-up when there are no class, there's no games. You can't get onto the pitch and say, you can't tell the opponent team, can you please throw some practice balls? Hey, face the ball. If you are fit enough to face it, you will face it. Otherwise, clean, bold, first ball. Go and sit in the pavilion rest of the day. There is no time for preparation, Ingala. Preparation is before the class. The whole week, you have got 2 weeks. In fact, last week, you had no class. So you should have been more prepared. Yo, sir, I have not touched the book also. I have not even opened ATMABODHA. So I'm very rusty. And suddenly you come off and suddenly start off, you're hitting, you're bouncing, bowling bouncers one after the other. All is going overhead. I hope that is not the case, huh? But with the smiles on your face, I know that's what is happening. I get it. I get it straightforward. You don't have to clarify. What, RPG? Correct, huh? Even you're smiling, so you also are in the same boat.
Yeah, Hari Om, Guruji. Yeah, I was not thinking of the cricket metaphor. I was thinking of, because I've not had my breakfast yet, so I was thinking of Pani Puri. The guy just delivers the plates, and he's like, "You got to eat these because I'm going to start throwing them at you. You got to take all this, the obviously very worldly things, but no, I think it's good that you're coming right at us, wakes us up. For at least here on the East Coast of the United States, it's still early, so it's a good poke, good prod to get us going. That is great.
Yeah. See, but for you're waking up. Yeah, I can understand. You're waking up and you're reminded of Pani Puri. Our side, they already had overeaten, so I have to wake them up from their slumber. Another reason causing the same state.
Yeah.
No, it is very important. It is very important to optimize this hour you have with the text. It is so important. So when you are here for an hour or so, you have to have your receptacles so perfectly tuned in, so that you optimize and you're able to receive everything. You can't say, oh, I will fall back on the recordings. What is the big deal? Anyway, these people are sending, whether you like it or not, they are sending messages, already they're bombarding us. So it'll always be there. If not tomorrow, 10 days also, YouTube will, it's always there. I'll catch it up there. No. You want to optimize it. You have to ensure you got to cut off the world, all that you're engaged in, all the mundane activities that you're caught up in till now. You got to shrug it off. You got to dismiss your mind from all that and ensure your receptacles, your mind and intellect are tuned in to receive it. And that's when you'll find in the very first statement you're in tune with the Guru. The very first statement you're able to relate to what the text is saying, and you take off. So that's the preparation you got to come with. And a Guru expects you to do that. And if you don't do that, you fall back. You are the loser. All right. So just for the benefit of those who got a few bruises because of bouncers, or had to stuff in more pani puris because that fellow is rushing. Arey yaar, wait yaar. What is your hurry? Nobody is there, no? Thoda halu se do. You'll tell that fellow, before you finish the pani in the mouth, there are 3 pani puris in the plate. They're all getting soggy and then they are breaking. Tharo yaar. What is the problem? I'll eat slowly. Don't push me. So shanti. So RPG, I will not throw any more pani puris or bounces at you all. Okay. The fear arises because of your individuality you have created. An individuality or ego or jiva is born when you have not identified yourself to be the totality. So out of the ignorance of not knowing yourself to be the Supreme Self, the Paramatma, you and I do not know. We know in the terms of information, but we have not asserted ourselves to be the reality, to be the consciousness, to be the self, since we have not, due to that ignorance, arises the individuality. And out of that ignorance of not knowing yourself to be the reality arises fear. So from an absolute standpoint, the ignorance of yourself creates fear. Absolute standpoint. So all of us are experiencing some kind of insecurity, some kind of fear, because we all have assumed an individual status, an individuality, and to that extent, you have separated yourself from the totality. This is from an absolute standpoint. All right, there's no discussion here. Until you get to the self, we all will be subjected to this fear of emotion. You may be so acclimatized to that emotion, you may not experience that emotion. You may not understand what it is to be devoid of it. You're just conditioned, so you don't know what it is to be free of fear. It's like a slum dweller. He's conditioned, he's acclimatized to that stench and smell. He doesn't understand what it is to be without it. You and I would know it, because when we walk into it, the sheer disparity. We say, hey man, what is this condition you're living in? What is this foul smell? Like this afternoon, we visited somebody's house and we were being asked, do you smell anything? Like, smell what? Isn't it, Vijaya? What is your smell? Ah, yeah, there's some smell that's coming. Because they were in the house, conditioned by the house, conditioned by the environment, they couldn't feel it. But we walked from outside, instantly we could feel the disparity. Similarly, all of us are subjected to this emotion, fear. It goes only upon realization, absolute standpoint. And then I said, from a relative standpoint, there are 3 reasons why we all experience fear, which can be countered, which can be reduced with the help of this knowledge and wisdom. The first reason is when there is an otherness, when you create a duality, there is an emotion, fear. There is a certain insecurity. For example, you are in a foreign country. Let's say you wanted to go to Africa. For some reason, you said, I want to go to Africa. So when you go to Africa, you'll obviously find Africans there. You'll not find your friendly, acquainted people of your own homeland. So you'll find Africans, you'll find these guys, 6 feet, well-built, dark Negro fellows, and you get into a camp and you find this fellow, dark fellow, ugly looking fellow. I'm not saying not every dark fellow is ugly, but this fellow is a very ugly looking fellow. And there's some fear in you. Why? You have not identified with that fellow. You treat him as someone other than you. You don't identify with what he is, just because he may be bulky and he may be black and he may be imposing personality on you. You think he's going to harm you. Why? There's that suspicion, that's fear. Why? You have separated yourself from him. But the moment you strike a conversation with him, hey, that guy is such a soft guy. And instantly he felt my concern and he comforted me. He said, madam, don't worry. The moment he started speaking like that, instantly I became so comfortable and I trusted him. See, moment there is no otherness, moment there is no duality, instantly the fear disappears. I'm just giving an example so you can relate to the reason why you develop fear. This has nothing to do with self-realization. It is to do with your own mental identification, whether you identify with someone or not. It can happen with your own kith and kin, isn't it? You may not identify with your own kith and kin or with your own family or with your own colleagues. There is fear. Otherness. You feel that fellow is going to steal your position. Your insecurity. You think there's no oneness. We are all members of the same team. We are all belong to the same organization. There's no oneness. Now, second, I said ignorance. When you do not know something, not from an absolute standpoint, from a relative standpoint. Once there is knowledge, once there's an understanding, instantly fear goes. And that's what the verse is saying. The mistaken identity, the ignorance of you think the rope to be the snake, isn't it? Just like rope is misunderstood to be the snake, and from that arises all the fear. An entire problem. The masters are making so much of noise. Why are the masters making so much noise? Any idea? I'm just, see, the question has stemmed from a statement, you misunderstood the rope to be the snake. And from that snake arises fear. And from that, I have taken off the question, why are these masters making so much noise about this? Why are they harping on this so much again and again? Why are the masters making so much noise? Hariji, you will be given the last chance. Just hold on. Yeah. Okay, Hariji, go ahead.
It's because we are living in this world and the world is misinterpreted as the real. So we are always in that state. World is represented as the snake.
Yes,
so day in and day out, we are in that state.
You're not wrong at all. But I would want to get to that statement, which may be too demanding, but what is that reason why these masters are making so much of noise about this? Let me hear from others. Hariji, I know if I probe, I know if I keep clarifying, you'll get it, but let's engage others.
Sure.
Yeah. What's the reason? Padmanima, what do you think is the reason the masters are making so much noise?
Pops up in your mind of something which is not there, something which is not existing, but you imagine, and then the thought causes.
This is what it is. So the entire problem of the concept of fear is all self-created, it's imaginary. There is no reality in that fear. That is what the masters are making all the noise. It is all your creation. There is no snake. The fear is coming from the snake. Snake is not the reality. It is your imagination. It's an illusion you're caught up in. And you don't realize that. And that is the ignorance we're all caught up in. So moment you realize I am not that, it is not that, it is something other than it, instantly the fear goes. It's all your own creation. There is no otherness, it's your own creation. So the illusion is also your own creation. It's your own imagination. We will not understand it. The moment you understand, there is no fear. The imaginary snake disappears, the real rope appears. So in fact, insecure feeling is again a measuring tool of how spiritual you are. A spiritual man has no fear. He doesn't experience any insecurity. So it's rather difficult to convince you that there is no insecurity. Now, the third reason I got to explain is when your desires are fulfilled, when your desires are met, one experiences the emotion fear. You have, suddenly the fear comes in because you already got what you desired. Now, but yet every desire that is fulfilled doesn't metamorphose into fear. So what are the conditions that influence fulfilled desire to express as fear? What are the factors that influence a fulfilled desire to express as fear? See, I desired something. I go and get it. There's no necessity for me to be afraid of losing it, isn't it? It's not a natural emotion. So there's certain things which influence, qualify. So what are the things which qualify? I hope I'm explaining the question so that once you understand the question, answer becomes very easy. So what influences? Hariji, I'm not talking about developing more desires here. We are talking about fear. I'm playing cricket and you're playing hockey. You were saying that both are playing with the same ball, no? A round shaped ball. In a different game. Huh? You were wondering why is he talking of cricket? Because the third test match is still going on. Half my mind is there. Not really. Yeah? My 100% mind is here. Don't worry. Only information I know that something is going on there. What is the reason that influences your desires fulfilled to create fear? Gayatri Ma, what are you saying?
Guruji, supposing we attach value to it, then there is a fear of losing the item or whatever it is, even the person, whatever it is. When we have like high value for that person or an item, we get the fear of losing it.
So
but supposing when we don't attach any value to it, supposing I get something and then it's over, then there is no value attached to it, then it doesn't matter if I lose it. Like,
yeah. So the first reason you develop fear is you have developed an attachment to the object you have acquired. Attachment is only towards the objects of acquisition, isn't it? You may have an object and yet be not attached to it. But the moment you are attached to that object, there is object or being, to whatever you are attached to, there's a fear of losing it.
yes.
Which is an additional value you have given to it. Perfect, that's right. Now, I think Vijayji also is saying the same thing, that get attached to the fruits and fear of it is you start developing this fear. All right. Any other reasons? There are two more reasons actually. Oh, you can say, yeah. Both are interrelated, you can say so. Void is created after fulfillment. How do you say void is created after fulfillment? You are fulfilling a void, isn't it? From the void comes desires. And when you fulfill the desires, the void is meant to be fulfilled. How can you say it creates a void? There seems to be a slight difference in the cause and effect. The void is the cause, desires are the effect. But you are saying after desiring being met, further void is created. And now, Ushama, are you there?
Namaste, Guruji. Once your desire is met, then again you will feel a quest for more desires or more craving for more acquisition or like that.
But that has got nothing to do with fear, isn't it? You're only developing more desires there.
That's true. It doesn't have to do with the fear, except if you are attaching too much value for whatever you acquired or less value for what you are acquired and you want to increase, satisfy your desires more.
Yeah, this is certainly a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
The void creates desires.
Yeah.
The desires create a further void. So it's a vicious cycle. You just get caught up in it and there's no way out of it.
Yeah.
Either you learn it through knowledge or through experience.
Exactly.
Many people don't even realize through experience also.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Yes. Perfect. Yes. Glad. Yes, Sidhuji.
Hariom Guruji, this
yes, sir.
see all this sports champion and all who get a title, the topmost title, then they are expected to retain it. So that creates a fear. That gives them a responsibility that the whole nation expects them to win again and again.
Correct. So you developed a certain anxiety or attachment to the fruit. Very true. Yes. A lot of them are sharing similar thoughts. Harish is saying when we are identified with the fruits or results, anxiety arises due to fear of loss or impermanence. Harish is always at a different level altogether. It'll take a while for us to attune to his level. Right. Now, the second reason why we develop fear of losing is when you have procured the object through selfish means. When one has acquired the object of desire through a selfish avenue, invariably there's a fear of losing it. When there's certain amount of unethicalness to it, when there's a certain amount of lack of integrity in your approach, or when you want to enjoy something without contributing, there's a fear of losing. When you've worked hard, when you have been industrious, when you have been ethical, when you have been upright, when you had integrity in your work, and the fruits of that labor, like the Satwik person, remember a Satwik man, what is the principle of Satwik person with reference to the fruits of action. It's an outstanding concept. In the 3rd chapter it comes. I've often said it. A Satwik person also enjoys fruits, but the fruits of his action are, a Satwik man eats the remnants of his sacrifice. Remnants. Remnants means sacrifice. Yes, Vasanti. Sacrifice is you live a life of yajna. So you, wherever you go, you are in a spirit of service and sacrifice. And when you live a life of sacrifice, whatever fruits you're endowed with, you're content with it. Everybody has to have fruits, means fruits come your way, because cause and effect of an action is fruit. But they don't seek fruit, means their actions are not desired. That's a trademark of a Satwik person. So their actions are of a yajna spirit, but as a result, whatever comes out of their sacrificial work, they're very content. They don't stoop down to a level where they are selfish and desired. Their actions are not desired. So the moment you are desired, what happens? A rajasic person, remember, Atma Karanat. He says a rajasic person is one who cooks for himself, he says. One who cooks for himself, he says he eats sin. These are the literal words in the 3rd chapter. Rajasic person, those who cook for himself, eat sin. Hariji, just kindly capture this, please. Rajasic person cooks for himself but eats sin. Satwik person you already captured. Satwik person eats the remnants of sacrifice. Rajasic person cooks for himself, eats sin. Tamasic person eats without producing. He enjoys something without producing. He wants to gain something without contributing towards it. He wants to get something which is eating without contributing is what? Sai, tamasic person eats something without contributing. What's the familiar word of replace that? Idella Lord Krishna's Vyasa's terminology. In our terminology, how do you explain it?
He's purely a taker. He's just consumer, a mere consumer. Be it in a relationship or an office, wherever, he's trying to, by hook or crook, he wants to get his goals met, either through whatever, whatever needs. For example, if in an office environment, let's say he wants to have an salary rise, then he may resort to some unethical means just to get it. Not actually be, if he were a contributor as opposed to a consumer, he would have seen what best way I can contribute. Thereby the byproduct is his salary rise. But here he is more after the byproduct rather than the actual contribution. Actually, so he's merely a consumer or a taker.
Okay, I get what you're saying. See, in the you're still working, though, but a tamasic fellow doesn't work at all. He eats without producing. The concept is, the term I was looking for is anything free. Anything comes free, he will come and join. I know people, they come and ask, are these satsangs charged? Oh, not charged, then I'll enroll. Coming free, no? Anything free, I'll come and join. Have I to do anything? No, don't have to do anything. Then I am there. The moment you're obliged to do something, you will back out. So the thought of enjoying something without contributing towards any cause, the contributing towards it is being tamasic. Rajasic is you do it, but you do for yourself. See, I had a very subtle perception, I would say, but it was very obvious. We had to go for a certain medical opinion. Went into to consult a surgeon for an opinion, and we walked into the clinic. She was not in the clinic where we had met, so she was in another clinic. Said, please come and meet us there. So a couple of us went there to seek the opinion, and there was another surgeon. He was trying to convince us to get the surgery done with or without insurance, and he was pushing us into it. And I was all the while telling the other person, this fellow is trying to encash the situation we are in. And this fellow is so obvious, is so excited about, it's like a goat entering the slaughterhouse. This fellow will slaughter this fellow. That kind of a reaction he had. And we just said, I almost told him, calm down, calm down. We just want to know what is the right approach. Because he wanted to give us a bill of 50,000 rupees, clear bill he wanted to give for a procedure. And the reality of that is, it was resolved in 500 rupees. We went for a second opinion, 500 rupees, in 2 minutes it was resolved. It is being taken care of with a mere certain medication and things. And I could sense the anxiety in him to somehow not to let us go. It was so obvious. Selfish in the field of medicine, rather than trying to help some patient who walks in with a concern, you want to abuse his ignorance to encash for your own well-being. I could sense it clearly written all over his face. The clear anxiety he had. And the fact that he had it, he lost it. So a person who acquires something selfishly, there's constantly fear of losing it. But the same person who enjoys the same fruits and rewards acquired through unselfish means, through the process of sacrifice and remanence, there is no fear in him. So the route you take to get what you want. So what's the route you got to take, RPG? All the while we are seeking something in the world, isn't it, through our actions? What's the route to take?
Best you can, the selfless route.
Selfless route, sacrificial route. So the route you're taking is, don't seek it. So what is the route to take? When you say selfless, what's the route in that?
One steeped in the action, one focused on the betterment of whatever, and then the advancing of that purpose that you have in your heart.
Better than the, sorry, better than the?
No, the betterment of the purpose, or the group, or the whatever, that service that you're trying to fulfill. Just keep your focus on that.
So in that, so in your statements, you said, I asked you, what is the route to get your objects of desire fulfilled? To which you said, the larger betterment.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Selfless.
what are you? I don't know. Selfless is too high. I would not talk selfless. Even
Okay.
Unselfish here. Now, even unselfish. But what are you saying? My question is, what is the route I need to take to get the object of desire? You're saying betterment of others, isn't it? Now, where is the object of desire?
I mean, there's still an object of desire, but that desire is outward for the benefit of others, not for yourself.
Then what happens to that object of desire you are seeking?
If you do it in a true sense of yajna, it comes to you. It's bestowed upon you. That benediction follows.
Correct. So in effect, absolutely right. So if you're very acute to the perception and the concept, in effect, what you're doing is you're rising above the object of desire. True unselfishness is to shed your selfishness and anxiety towards the objects of your desires. The moment you rise above the object of desire will come and seek you. This is the law of life, isn't it? A selfish person is seeking the object with anxiety. An unselfish person doesn't do it because he's going to get it. You can't cheat the law. Huh? But truly, when you rise above it, drop the lower. You pick up the higher, the lower comes to you. In true sense, if one does that, so remnants of sacrifice. Thereafter, the object of desire is no more there in sight. But if you keep chasing it, if that is the object of pursuit, there is invariably going to be fear. Now, since there is an element of selfishness and unselfishness in every action, we're all paying the price of the degree of selfishness and attachment. And the third reason which causes fear is destructive nature. When you're destructive in your actions, it causes enormous fear. See, I may be what's the difference between point 2 and point 3 is when I'm selfish, I may not be destructive. I have a selfish intent or attitude in me. Third, destructive is you want to survive by destroying others, by, I don't know how else to put it. You survive at the cost of others. So if I have to prosper, that fellow has to suffer. He has to be out of the equation for me to thrive. So the best way for me to succeed is he has to die. So I will do anything for that guy to die so that I thrive and I survive. By hook or crook, yes. Taking away from others. Correct, Shivaji. And all these three are saying zero-sum game. What is zero-sum game, Hariji? I've heard so much from you. Maybe you should clarify to the group.
No, Guruji, again, you heard it because I'm repeating.
No, but the problem is not, it has not sunk in. No, that's the problem. That's why I'm saying you please repeat it.
I'm only saying what you said. But anyway, what I'm saying is that there is no situation you envisage where both win. So if I have to win, you have to lose. If you have to win, I have to lose. So the sum of the both of us is always a zero. It's one win and one loss. So it's a zero. It's never a situation where both can win. So a situation where you want to go ahead and you feel you can only win when the other person loses, that's what I meant.
But that's not the real thing of life, isn't it? The real charm of life is not in that. Very true. So a perfect example in nature where you find where there is destruction and insecurity is very evident is when you look at the life of a carnivore. Starting from even the lizards you find in your own home. What is a lizard doing from morning to night? Constantly devouring, isn't it? Constantly killing. And when you approach a lizard, what does it do? Does it come and greet you? Does it come and hug you or run away from you? It is so fearful, it runs away. In extreme fear, it even sheds its own tail. Isn't it? Why does it get that fear from? But you approach a cow. It is not insecure. In fact, why do you worship a cow or a bull? In the Gita, Lord constantly addresses Arjuna as a bull amongst men, he says. You're a bull amongst men. Bharata Rishabha. You're a bull amongst the Bharata clan. Amongst all of them, you stand out as a bull amongst them. A bull or a cow is worshipped because of the maxim or the principle it functions and works on a principle of service and sacrifice. It constantly gives. It's a giver, it's not a taker. It's constantly working for the welfare of others. It doesn't demand anything for itself. It's constantly doing for others' well-being. Therefore, a cow is worshipped. Why is a cow worshipped? Not because it looks cute. Because of the principle. The Hindus worship because of the principle it conveys. So therefore you say you got to work like a cow or a bull, the maxim. So when you have a selfish attitude, you will have fear. When you develop an attachment to any object of desire, you will have fear. You live a life of destruction, you have fear. If you are having ignorance, you have fear. If you develop a spirit of otherness, you develop fear. So these are all the reasons, and all of this is self-created. So you can conquer it. And when you conquer it, there is no more fear or insecurity. Yeah, Vijayji, you're saying something, I don't get it.
Sorry if I'm not distinct because I've just gone through some procedures.
No problem.
Now, what I was saying is that the jungle law is such that each one is for survival, and so if you keep eating something else constantly, then when something bigger or some other unknown thing comes, you are equally afraid because you expect the same kind of a behavior and you feel insecure. And a cow, I suppose, it's respected because it's only giving, hardly taking anything. And so possibly that is a very disarming kind of a posture towards us. So we don't feel threatened by the cow, perhaps.
But even by nature, you see, they don't have a choice. A carnivore doesn't have a choice. Even if it's the most ferocious of carnivores. I've read many works of people who have written extensively on tigers. Kenneth Anderson, I always admired his wonderful connections with, he was called a Britisher who lived most of his life in India. He was a great lover of these tigers in particular, and he was called to kill man-eaters. And he was a lover of cats, these wild cats, and he used to take great trouble in trying to identify a man-eater vis-a-vis a non-man-eater. Because there's no way of identifying. If it is a man-eater, it will come to you. It'll come and kill you. If it is a non-man-eater, the moment a tiger sees you, it'll run for its life. Even in jungle, the thickest of jungles, if you were to encounter a man-eater or a tiger, the moment your sight falls on it, it goes away. It is insecure because it's destructive by nature. Unless it's a man-eater, it will come and kill you. This is the law of the animals, and they are living it unconsciously. This is the nature. So if we instill that destructive nature in us, you'll always be insecure wherever you are. And what is the opposite of insecurity? Vasantama, what is the opposite feeling of insecurity?
Fully satisfied and happy.
Satisfied, happy,
Full.
paripurna, fulfillment, where you are happy, you celebrate the success of others. See, when somebody else is doing well, you are happy at it. That kind of joy you get because you are happy at others' success. That is the oneness. If somebody has bought a house, you are celebrating, you are happy. You don't curse within and say, look at that fellow, huh? What a beautiful house he's got. You're not envious at him. You're happy because he has got it. He could be a stranger. He could be anybody out there. You know? So instantly you're able to identify the opposite of otherness is oneness. You have developed that oneness towards others. So if we are able to celebrate others' success, that's the opposite of insecurity. We don't have to go for literal dictionary opposites, but to cultivate, we're talking. How can it be a sadhana? If we can learn to be happy for others' well-being, rejoice in others' success. You're happy for others' well-being and you rejoice in others' success. There are two qualities, perhaps, if you are able to practice it. You wish others well-being. And if others succeed, you rejoice. You get some kind of a joy that others are doing well. And that is exactly the opposite of insecurity. You're so happy. Sarva bhuta hite rataha. I think one of the 35 qualities of a devotee of Lord, he says, one who revels in the welfare of others. This is the opposite of insecurity. Very, very practical. If you know how it works and how you can counter it, you'll be able to address it. As I've said, there is this element of fear in all of us. So you need to find out the reasons and you got to relate to it practically. Badriji, can you give any examples of this fear? I'm only trying to give it an applicability so that we are able to start relating to our lives. Vijayji, I'll come to you. Maybe Badriji, if I could hear from him.
Examples of which specific kind of fear?
Fear is one. The sources are different. Anything. If you've been receiving various aspects of what causes fear, but like I gave an example of the doctor. I walked into the clinic and I sensed that extreme anxiety or selfishness in him.
Right.
Things like that.
I can
coming from a corporate side, coming from work atmosphere. How do you experience? Can you share some insight into that from that perspective?
Yeah, in the corporate world, the fundamental characteristic of corporate life is competition. Okay, either you're competing with another company or you're competing with your colleagues for benefits within the organization. So competition is the fundamental nature of corporate life, and because the competition means either there is success or failure. Either you win or you lose. It creates fear. Whereas you don't do it with a certain detachment. There is something you need to do what you need to do to be in a particular sphere of activity. So, but if you do what you need to do without the sense of anticipation of the outcome, okay, if you do your dharma as a corporate person, for instance, and face the consequences, whatever they are, then whatever the consequences are, you have a feeling of fullness, whether it is negative or positive, because your focus is on your effort. So if your effort is sincere, even a negative consequence is borne properly. I actually had another example in mind, not from the corporate life, if you will permit me.
Please.
Okay. If you look at, you spoke about doing something ethically, and if you do something ethically, there is a certain feeling which is different from when you do something by cutting corners. Okay, the best example is what happened to the Pandavas after they won the Kurukshetra war. Okay, you would think that after winning a war like that, everybody would be very happy, and it's one of those happy endings to the story. But the truth in the epic, as far as I know, is they were very unhappy. there were very serious questions about whether they won ethically. When they went and met the mother of the Kauravas, for instance, she directly accused them of unethical behavior, and so it wasn't a victory that gave the winning side full satisfaction. And the epic is grand and marvelous because of that, because there are no real winners in even in a dharmakshetra. Okay, as long as there is, but everybody had their karmas to fulfill. They did what they had to do, but there was no, at the end, there was no satisfaction.
All right. So I see that is, as you rightly said, it's your perspective to it.
Right. Could be wrong. I'm just...
No. I don't want to throw a rejoinder to it, but I would leave it at that. Let's hear from others. I really appreciate. In fact, I would go with the first part which you said about the corporate life, where the game of the rule of the game is competition, but that doesn't necessarily mean there has to be an attitude of destruction, isn't it? Everything thrives when there's a healthy competition. There is no joy in watching a one-sided match. It could be tennis, it could be chess, it could be hockey, it could be cricket, it could be badminton, any sport. What brings the best out of a sportsman is a healthy competition, isn't it?
Right.
If there is and business thrives when the competition is good. So it brings the best out of you, but that doesn't mean there has to be this attitude of destruction. And there's no necessity of fear to lurk where there's competition, but fear seems to be synonymous with competition today out there, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's because of what's the work ethics? The work ethics are wrong. Work ethics is...
There is a famous book written by a former chairman of Intel, the company that makes chips. And Andy Grove, he wrote a book called Only the Paranoids Survive. So in his view, in a competitive world, okay, if you are paranoid, it's a way of surviving and winning. Okay, so which is exactly the opposite of what we are saying here.
Yeah. I don't understand how that is, but yeah, that's exactly what we're saying. You can have an attitude of striving. See, the Shastras talk of that life of Sattva. Everybody only experiences Rajas. At max, they come to a Rajas of frenzied action. And then they experience and yet at a hefty price. But hardly anybody rises to the level of Sattva, where there's competition, but there is no animosity or hatred or bitterness, or you don't stoop down to that, as Rajima says, cutthroat attitude, where you want to survive at the cost of others. No, that's all. It's rampant though, therefore that seems to be the only way out. But that's not it. Vijayji, yes. Hariji, I'll come to you.
Guruji, it may not be about the competition or the destructive behavior, but something occurred to me about our daily life. At least what I've been going through, I'm sure everybody else too. I think because of whatever perceptions we hold, call it vasanas, whatever, and anytime we come across new persons, immediately we develop a certain attitude towards them. If they are unknown. And every time and again, what I see is that these perceptions quite often are misleading. The moment you know the person, and if you go and relate to the person, and get to know the person, you realize that you are imagining things. Like if somebody is tall, you think that he's a boor, and somebody is small, and you think that there is a weakling. Actually, neither need to be true. And in the corporate world, there are a whole lot of discussions go on about people relating in work teams. Like you have perceptions about supervisor, and you have supervisor has certain perceptions about the subordinate. And if they had only talked to each other a little more openly to begin with, the whole thing would have been resolved then and there, instead of snowballing into some kind of a conflict all the time.
Correct.
So this is, I think, I was just thinking that, how many times I've looked at a person and thought, hey, this guy is, I think he looks like an arrogant guy. For all I know, it was my problem, not his problem.
Yeah. Absolutely. You're right. Yeah. As it boils down to your weak judgmental, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's my own fears. What comes out of my fears make me judge a certain person depending on my way of my scale.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting perspective based on scale. Right. Okay. Wonderful, Ji. Yes, Hari Ji.
In the corporate world, if we have got a sense of gratitude towards the organization, that the organization is taking care of you, taking care of me and my family, and I work for the organization, and the need of the organization comes above my own personal need. In that way, I will be able to give the best out of me for the organization. The organization develops. In that process, I also develop. So I always got out of my sense of gratitude to any organization I have worked for.
Correct.
I could always give my best because the organization came first, then only the family.
Wonderful. Absolutely. That's the exact opposite, or perhaps the pathway to counter the insecurity, isn't it? You have to be grateful and then allow your actions to serve that larger cause. It's very true. Yes, absolutely. Beautiful, Ji. Yes. Yes, Harish Ji.
Guruji, I've paraphrased to the best of my ability whatever you've been saying, and I've already put it on the chat box. So I don't know if it's required for me to repeat myself. But basically, what I was saying was that when you have a positive attitude, you don't see the negatives only in the others, and you start celebrating their achievements. This is the cornerstone, or this fearlessness to appreciate the other is the cornerstone of what is team spirit in the corporate world. So, and it can only happen when you are really secure within yourself. So, I mean, like you've been going on saying, when you yourself are fulfilled and when you are not threatened, then you have, and you can only be that if you have the humility to accept that you are not the sole cause, you are only a contributor. The moment you realize that you are only a contributor and not the sole cause, then you don't identify the victory or the goal or the achievement of the goal as only your achievement. And you realize that you are a contributor to the achievement. And therefore, you realize that every other person who is succeeding is also a contributor to your success, or to the, and in therefore to the total team success. I think this is the most essential difference between the Satwik attitude and the Rajasic attitude as far as a corporate life is concerned. So when you operate in a team, one is the very fact that the goal is unselfish and the goal is higher means that it is not identified with one individual. It is beyond every individual, not only you, but even the others. It is not only theirs, it is everybody. The moment that is there, it is the starting point, and then you realize that everybody has to be cogs in the wheel some cogs are more important cogs than others. Typically George Orwellian statement. So some are more important than the others. But the fact is, everybody is required to varying degrees to achieve the goal. And that humility is the cornerstone of success. And that only comes. There was this interesting story, Guruji, if you will permit me to repeat, which you and me were talking about, that you were talking about a person who had done a lot of good work and seva. And he had contributed a lot to many causes. Now, there could be two reactions. One, the cynical reaction. Yes, I know what all this is ill-gotten gains. He had to park it somewhere. I know how he's got that money, right? So he had to park it somewhere. So what? So that could be one attitude, right? The other attitude is say, oh my God, what a great job. What a fantastic thing. So I think that is what is the difference between the positive attitude and a negative attitude. Do you concentrate on the few negatives or the few positives?
Yeah.
That's the,
Yes.
and that is the essence of corporate life. If one wants to succeed, unfortunately, most of us learn it when it is too late in corporate life. When we're not in corporate life.
It's after corporate life.
Yes. You don't realize it. The few who do realize it while they are in corporate life reach the very top.
And the one I can see right away is sitting in front of me, is in front of all of us, Arbiji. He's sitting with his jacket in his office. Yes, Arbiji, we have to hear from you.
Guruji, I'll take my jacket off next time. Too formal, I think.
Not at all.
So one of the things that comes to mind, and as I'm actually getting ready to go through some changes in my own corporate life, is this concept of abundance versus scarcity.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the Satwik, and again, I don't know, but the Satwik person looks out at the world and he or she says, oh my God, look at all the benevolence. Look at the abundance of everything, whether it's food and entertainment and all and I think the Rajasic person and the person that's caught up in fear thinks about scarcity. And how am I going to get, everything is shrinking, everything is getting worse. And I think it's beyond even optimism, but having that sense that, wow, there's so much wonder and joy and everything.
Yeah.
And having that sense of abundance that even if you get into the competitive and the change I'm getting ready to make, one of the reasons I made that change is because I wanted to get into an environment where I was challenged more, right? And part of that challenge is being more closely linked to competition and that sort of thing. But it's not from a win-lose perspective, but it's a win-win perspective because that particular market is such an abundant and rich market. And this company needs the right people to help them, right? So how can I be a servant? How can I, again, it's not what we're talking about here today in terms of that philosophical endpoint, but it is that, we see Arpit or team, this abundance, and how do we serve? How do we bring our message? How do we bring our methods to helping these folks to that abundant market? And I think that's often lost because we get into a mode of scarcity, and then all we're trying to do is get our piece of it because we think it's all going to go away.
Correct.
Right.
That's insecurity, isn't it?
Yeah, and then we get insecure, and then we cut. And I think we talked about cutthroat, and we just cut people, and
Yeah.
we and that attitude of scarcity, I think, hurts us in the long run.
Really well said, RPG. And I did gather that you are expanding.
I can't promise I would do the same thing without the jacket. So I don't think I would have the same insight without the jacket. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
Not
you.
at all. No. I was only wanting to say I did gather that you're expanding and you're switching roles and looking for jobs. Maybe I can also send my resume, which were very simple, but maybe I can try my luck.
Guruji, you're overqualified, Guruji. Way overqualified.
Right. Yeah, but actually, if there is a problem, the Shastras give us so much solutions, and the fact that you all have brought your experience and your dimension to this ever-present fear of insecurity, as I've said in the beginning, we all could be acclimatized to it, and we don't know how to unfold and get rid of it. So the more consciously we go and search for it and take the necessary corrective measures, you will start realizing, you will start appreciating the positivity of life. You will, as Hariji said, gratitude, as all of you put it, and RPG concluding said that working from abundance than scarcity, and then trying to grab what you think is left out there before you lose it. That's very beautifully said. So if we all understand that there's a certain clear pathway the Shastras are giving us, and if you're able to break it down to the smallest level where our actions can embrace that spirit of sacrifice, and every walk, every breath, every action, you will actually counter the ever-present insecurity. So the insecurity is ever present. You will have to take measures to counter it constantly. The moment you relax, it will start consuming you. Ignorance will consume you. So broaden your perception to how you can counter this fear or insecurity. The verse only mentions that mistaking the rope for the snake, there is fear. But then we have spent the entire session trying to decode what this fear is, what is the cause, and how we can approach it and experience a sense of a joy in others' well-being and celebrating others' success. If you're able to do that, life is very, very rewarding, very satisfying. All right. And truly we would have conquered the imaginary fear or insecurity. All right. We'll come back. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.